You are listening to The World as I See It podcast. 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 As I see it podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The World as I See It podcast. Today's episode is going to be about sports and how I do sports as a person who is completely blind. But before we dive into that, I just want to remind you that this podcast is a conversation. If you have something that you've been wondering about, or a question that you want to ask, or just an idea for a future episode, send me an email at theworldasIseeitpodcast@gmail.com. Now, let's get into it. So, we're going to start talking about cheer. And I did school cheer all through middle school. And I really loved it. And I took it very seriously. When we were learning the cheers, the coach would physically position my arms and my legs to show me what to do. And that's how I learned the routines. Not by watching, but by feeling the movements. And I would practice them over and over until I had them memorized. And even though I stopped doing cheer after middle school, I still look back on those years with pride. Because, to be honest, it was hard work. And I gave it everything that I had. And being a part of cheer was something that was bigger than myself. And, moving in sync with a group, it was just something that was special. And I had friends who, were in the cheerleading squad, so I made friends from that. And that's why I also really enjoyed it. I also did gymnastics from the time I was about 2 or 3 until the end of middle school. And again, just like with cheer, I learned through touch and muscle memory. The coaches would guide my arms and correct my form and help me feel how a movement was supposed to go. It taught me confidence in how to move my body with control and trust. And especially when it came to gymnastics, when we were doing back bends or flipping around in the air and doing cartwheels, before I knew how to do that stuff, I had to trust the coach. I had to trust the coach, when I was in the middle of a flip. Because I didn't know how the movement was supposed to land. So that's what they had to teach me. And it taught me to trust. And it also taught me patience. Because when you were learning a new tumbling skill, it took, weeks or sometimes months to, land that flip right. And once you did, you felt so proud. And it made me so proud of myself whenever I learned those skills. Many of the sports that I tried them through a group I'm a part of called SEQIA, which stands for Southeast Kids in Action. And it is a group of visually impaired kids and teens and sighted volunteers. We will meet monthly and we will do different activities. But with SEQIA, I've had the chance to go snow skiing and scuba diving, horseback riding, and so much more. And this group has helped me become more independent and experience things that I never thought I'd get to do. And I'm really thankful to be a part of SEQIA, and I'm so grateful for all the people who make it possible and the people who get me there every month. Next, I've tried horseback riding, and I started it on my own with the encouragement from my parents. I've also done it with my SEQIA group. The instructor would walk beside me and tell me which way to turn, and I'd follow their voice and use the reins to guide the horse. It was one of those that it was slow, it was peaceful, it was just a very relaxing experience. And there's something so special about riding a horse and learning to trust that connection and learning to trust that bond. And that's why I really enjoyed it, because it built trust. I have also been snow skiing twice with my group. Um, the first time was a little scary, if I'm being honest, because I didn't know what to expect. I was flying downhill without being able to see. It's definitely something that takes trust. But by the second time, I knew what to do. I knew how to listen for guidance and how to shift my weight, and I had a great time. It was fun, fast, and definitely something I do again. One of the most unique things that I've done is scuba diving. It was such a peaceful experience, and under the water, everything is just calm. You can't hear the world around you. It's like this sensation. You just float and breathe and listen to your thoughts. The instructors, they guided me, you know, with arms since we couldn't talk under the water. We had to use hand signals. And to be honest, that was something that I had to learn. I've never really been the type who talks with my hands. In fact, I've always kind of thought that it felt kind of weird. Even though I know a lot of people do it, but under the water, I had to learn to communicate that way. And it worked. That experience taught me something new, not just about movement, but about communication. I would definitely go scuba diving again, either with the group or just for fun. And I just want to say, I was not in the ocean, I was in a pool, for anybody that doesn't know. I also got to try canoeing, and I was in the front of the canoe. Behind me was one of my friends who had sight, and behind her was the person who was steering. So before we even were on the water, I got to hold the paddle and feel it and practice the motion of how I would paddle before I was in the water. So she showed me, again, kind of like cheer, you know, position my arms, position my hands, and explain to me how to paddle and how, it was supposed to feel. Once we were out on the water, the person in the back was steering the canoe, and I followed instructions, and it was a really peaceful and relaxing experience too. Just floating along and working together. It made it feel just really smooth, and I enjoy it a lot. Now, we're going to talk about something big. And we're going to talk about one of the hardest things that I have ever done in my life. My first half marathon. If you don't know, a half marathon is 13.1 miles. And that's a far distance to walk or run. Especially if you're not fully prepared like I was when I did my first half marathon. I'll be honest. The first one, I did not train. I just was like, you know what? Sign up. I'm just going to sign up for this and see how it goes. Huge mistake. Do not do that. Do not do what I did. So I was feeling really good until I hit mile 9. And everything hurt. And I mean everything. But especially my feet. My feet literally felt like they were about to fall off right there. They were covered in huge blisters, and, something told me to keep going. And you know what that was? It was my mindset. I told myself that I had came this far and I couldn't stop. And that's what got me to the finish line. My body wanted to quit, but my mind refused to let me. I was very determined to finish. And I also had a group of people with me who were so encouraging. And they encouraged me. They walked with me and supported me and pushed me when I needed it most. It took me 5 hours, 20 minutes, and 22 seconds with a pace of 24 minutes and 28 seconds per mile. That first half marathon nearly broke me, if I'm going to be completely honest. But you know what? I finished it. And I was very proud of myself. And you know what I did? I did it again the year after that. But the second one was a whole different story. This time, I actually trained. I prepared. And even though it started pouring rain at mile 11, I was ready. I actually welcomed a little rain, but not that much. That was way too much. By that point, my socks were soaked. We were walking through puddles, and I could feel that water just squishing in my shoes. But I kept going. I wasn't as sore as the first time. Did my muscles hurt? Sure. But it wasn't unbearable. And most importantly, my feet didn't feel like they were going to fall off. And that's a win for me. That second half marathon, I finished in 4 hours, 34 minutes, and 47 seconds with a pace of 20 minutes and 59 seconds per mile. That's an hour faster than the first one. And again, it came down to the mindset. That mental strength, not letting myself quit and give up, made all of the difference. People sometimes ask or wonder, how do you do a half marathon if you can't see? Well, we use something called a tether, and it's basically like a simple strap or cord, and one end is for me and one for the sighted guide. That way, we're not connected. Like, we're connected and, we can move together without grabbing onto someone's sweaty arm. Because who wants to do that? The guide used verbal cues and body positioning to help me stay on track. And it's teamwork. So, a lot of the sports and activities that I've talked about today, like skiing, canoeing, horseback riding, and scuba diving, I did just for fun. I didn't do them to complete or to win anything. I did them to try something new and to challenge myself and to enjoy myself. The only things that I really took seriously were cheer and the second half marathon. Cheer was something that I was deeply committed to. But the rest, they were just about joy and freedom. And I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. And before I end this episode, I just want to say that if you are a blind or visually impaired person and you think that, you can't have fun in life, you can. Is it going to be different? Yes. Is it going to be challenging? Absolutely. But you can have so much fun and you can do so many things. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Because I'm here to tell you that you can do anything you set your mind to. If you have a good mindset and a great community of people who will encourage you, you can do anything that you want. So, thanks so much for listening to The World as I See It. If you've enjoyed this episode, again, I would love to hear from you. What stood out to you? What surprised you? And what do you want to know next? Email me at theworldasIseeitpodcast@gmail.com. Ask me anything. No question is too small or too weird. Your questions help shape the future episodes. And I want this to be a space where we all learn from each other. Until next time, thanks for seeing the world through my own eyes.
You've been listening to the World as I See It podcast.